Good evening? Yeah, let's say evening. Good evening, and welcome to 30-minute reviews. I am Adam. I'm tired. It's been a very long day. A little housekeeping before we start up. The website has been somewhat updated. We're still not 100% updated. However, there is now a news site on there as well. If you go to multipleworldproductions.com, on the top bar, there is a news button. On that news button, you will see stories about things that happen throughout the day that I am able to write a quick little blurb about without, getting too deep into it. It's basically a way for me to do mini episodes without, for things that break while I'm at work before I can get to something like this. A good way for me to keep appraised of what happened throughout the day as well. So if you go there, you can see that. If you go to the link that says new this week, I believe is what it says on the top bar, that link will take you to a page that lists out this week's new DVD releases. I'm a big proponent of physical media, and I understand if you buy a DVD, you are still buying a license to view the movie on a DVD or a Blu-ray. However, it is still hard for a studio or a distribution platform like Vudu or like Amazon Prime or like Sony or any number of other ones to take that away, because there have been cases in the past where a streaming deal has fallen through and you lose access to the thing that you had paid actual money for. So I'm a big proponent of physical media, and what is on there, the link of everything that's coming out this week. Well, not everything, the major movie releases that are coming out this week. And if you buy through Best Buy, through that link, you get, nothing special. It's just the same as if you bought anything from BestBuy.com, but we get a little bit of kickback from that, because we're linking it. It's a great way to support the show. You can also go on there. I don't understand why people walk in the shoulder instead of, on the sidewalk. But, we also have on there links to where you can buy all of my Kindle ebooks or physical, physical soft covers, or some of them have physical hard covers. If you want to do that, that also helps support the show. Within the next week or two, I'm going to have a video up on the site that is basically going to tell you all the cool things that we plan to do in the next year if we can hit certain funding goals. It's kind of like Kickstarter, but or Patreon or anything like that, but you're buying something and you're getting something physically for it. So I will work out the video. We will put up that, and then also I think I'm going to announce the next few years of titles too, because I'm not really a fan of doing this. We are just going to announce and then all right, well, this is what's coming out in June. I want to have a plan, and it makes it easier for me if I have the plan announced, so we'll be doing that too. That'll all be coming at some point in the next 2 weeks, and that will be on the YouTube, and the audio will be on the, will be on the podcast feed. I have to finish making cover pages, which is really the thing that is holding me back right here, and I have to finish the cover pages, and there will be some things with with tentative titles, not full titles, but we will talk about that more when we drop that episode after I record everything for it and edit it together. I'll be probably using, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we got some news to talk about. So what we have is, let's start out with number one. Walter Hamada is out at Warner Brothers. Walter Hamada has been speculated to be leaving Warner Brothers for a while. His contract was due to expire next year. However, it was kind of known that he was on his way out the door. Like, he was not anticipating having his contract re-upped under the new regime that Zaslav is running. And it was kind of obvious he was not going to be renewed. Speculation was, and previous reporting had indicated that Dan Lin, who had previously done the Lego Movie, he was one of the people in talks, but he has since dropped out reportedly because of handling of Batgirl. At the same time, there was was also someone from, it was a former Fox studio head. I forgot her name. She was also in consideration. Annie Watson, I think her name was. And then, of course, my choice, that was also apparently an option for this, Greg Berlanti. He was also in the mix, but again, no word on who the actual person is going to be who is taking over doing this. But Walter Hamada is officially out. It would indicate to me that they have a choice for the studio head. It is a weird choice to do this the week Black Adam comes out. It is a very weird decision. I'm not entirely sure why they did that. I would have waited maybe they were hoping that, they would crest on some good press. See, here's what I think happened. I think they were anticipating a much warmer response to Black Adam. It has currently got like a 50, when I last saw it, a 52 on Rotten Tomatoes. I think what they were hoping, and look, Rotten Tomatoes is not the be-all and end-all, because sometimes critic scores and audience scores can be out of sync, and then not only that, but I'm not a huge fan of the binary, the binary aggregator in that form. That said, a lot of people do use Rotten Tomatoes, and with it sitting at a 50-something, they have scaled down the opening weekend projection to 60 million, which is not fantastic. If you take into consideration that, like, Eternals, which was, Marvel's weakest movie of Phase 4, according to audiences. I disagree. I loved Eternals. But according to audiences, that was the weakest entry for Phase 4. That was, that one opened to, I want to say, 75, 80 million. Like, Let There Be Carnage was not good, and I don't think people liked it, and that opened to 95 million. And then you also have movies like, Black Widow opened to 80 million, and that was in July of 2020, or June of 2021, which was one of the first big movies back from the pandemic. And if it's tracking for 60 million, that's not great. So I think what they were hoping for was that they were going to have the good press from having a great opening weekend from Black Adam, and then drop that news during the weekend, where it's like, the head of DC Films is out, but Black Adam did, 120 million, 130 million, and, it's doing great, and they're doing a sequel, and yada, yada, yada. Where it's like the departure of Walter Hamada is kind of a also ran story. At the same time, it's kind of like when Marvel a few weeks back announced Deadpool 3, but did that the same day that they also announced that what's his name was out. The director of Blade had departed that. So it's like people kind of forgot about the fact that Blade lost a director until everything got delayed. But Blade losing its director, and then immediately this kind of happening, and then them announcing Deadpool 3 was kind of an interesting distraction play. And it worked out in their favor because it kind of got brushed under the rug. So it's an interesting kind of look that they did this now, because it's not like the weekend is going to salve this. I don't think. I don't think the performance of Black Adam, and the thing is too, I know the play that's going to happen is it's going to open to 60 million. Zaslav is going to say, well, people know they'll be able to come out and watch this movie in 45 days. That's why we're going to move away from the 45-day thing, because it's hurting our box office numbers. Meanwhile, that hasn't been the case for, every other DC movie that has come out. Wonder Woman 1984 had its issues, and the Suicide Squad came out while day and date release was happening, but that did not impact the opening weekend box office for the Batman. That did not impact opening weekend box office for what's it called? For what the fuck was the other one? Elvis, and it's like it doesn't impact opening weekend box office for Marvel. Like right now, I think the tracking for Black Panther is at 180 million or 175 million, and granted, we're weeks out, and no one has seen the movie yet. There's been no critic screenings. There's been nothing about it that indicates what quality the movie's going to be besides the two trailers. But if that movie's tracking at that movie's also going 45 days. And I think that's what they're going to do. The play is going to be blame the short theatrical window for the poor opening weekend because people will sit at home and wait and watch it when it comes out, when it's just not the case. And I think that we're looking at an era where Warner Brothers will be doing a lot of this. I don't want to say that Warner Bros. Is going to be entering an ugly era, but it appears so. Especially if they get a Hollywood studio type who's coming in and making the changes. Because, like, it goes on to the next story, The Flash, which is coming out next year with Ezra Miller. And again, this story broke the same week that he's indicted on a burglary charge that carries a possible 20... He's never going to get it. Not only is the guy dripping in money, but, they like the 26-year prison sentence is always like, this is the maximum we can get. They never give the maximum for something like this. Unless the judge is going to throw the book at him. It'll likely get appealed if he does, but either way, 26 years is unlikely. But the sensational headlines from Variety, from Deadline, from The Hollywood Reporter, from People Magazine, from all of these sources is always, lead of The Flash, the lead actor for The Flash, that is coming out next year, was indicted on a charge that carries a 26-year prison sentence. And it's one of those things where it's like in every one of them, it's not a picture. It's either a picture of him with his lawyer during the arraignment, or it's a picture of them with their lawyer during the arraignment, or it's a picture of Ezra Miller in the Flash costume in that one picture we've all been seeing since Justice League had its trailer drop, and it's that picture of him looking confused in the suit. With that, I don't see a world in which that movie should get a sequel. Yet here we are with a Flash 2 in active development, where a script is done, and they have screenwriters who have finished a script for a sequel to that movie. And I'm like, how do you release a sequel to this movie? Like, it's one thing to be like, look, we invested this much money in it already, we have to, we can't just take that loss, that would be catastrophic. In which case, I'm like, all right, put it out in theaters, and then when the dumpster fire comes out, and, and all of that, and then they're doing reshoots on it, which is like, the reshoots are the thing that has me the most concerned. Because it's possible, like, the reshoots could be anything from they are recasting Ezra Miller, and the reshoots are designed to do that, and Ezra Miller is coming back to do that, to show he's being a good sport about it so he can possibly work again after all of this has been cleared up, or it's studio interference. It's studio interference going like, okay, so we need to, fix this part, we're doing test screening, this part's an issue, and all of that, and it's like, okay, if that's the case, that also doesn't bode well, because then we could be headed back to the era of Iron Man 2, to the era of Batman v Superman, and if that's the case, where it's like we're going to be doing that, that's not a good place for Warner Brothers to be. And I don't think that's it. And I think that what we're looking at here is a doubling and tripling down on white-led movies at the expense of other, of things led by people of color. Because again, the excuse they gave for getting rid of Batwoman, or Batgirl, was they wanted to cut $300 million and they wanted to get that money back. If they didn't release Batgirl, they would be able to, they'd be able to write off the entire value of it as a total loss, and then recoup that as a loss in their taxes and get that money back from the government. Okay, I understand that. That said, that excuse goes a lot further if you're not releasing a Flash movie where the lead actor in the movie is accused of being a child predator. Like, by multiple people. Like, if that's the case, I just don't understand this. If you're just trying to cut that money from the budget, well, that movie costs $200-300 million. Get the fuck rid of it. Like, it is the easiest thing on the planet. But whatever, they're not going to get rid of that movie, and apparently they're developing a sequel because they're that confident in this movie. And I think if you develop The Flash 2, that indicates to me that they're just going to recast Ezra Miller and keep everything in continuity, which is a baffling choice. Which also leads to the question of, what is this new head of DC Films inheriting? Because I'm going to play a spoiler warning here, even though it's been all over the internet since the premiere, but Henry Cavill is making an appearance in the post-credit tag of Black Adam. And I think the problem with this is that if you have someone coming in and taking over this position, they are already dealing with a lot, because it's like, all right, so we've greenlit this project, we've greenlit this project, we've greenlit this project. These are already in development, these are what's coming out. Okay, beyond that, what do you want to do? Well, we have this rabid subsection of the fan base that we keep appeasing, and we keep doing it in really annoying ways. So what we end up with is, now if someone wants to come in and do a new Superman movie, are they stuck with Henry Cavill? Like, that's a big decision. It's like, and I have nothing against Henry Cavill. I think that he could have been a great Superman in a better Superman movie. I'm not thrilled about Man of Steel. I think he's great in it. Maybe if he smiled a little bit more, it would have been a little bit more entertaining. Maybe if he acted more like Superman and not like whatever the fuck sociopath that was in that movie, it would have been better. But with all of these things kind of playing against this movie to begin with, it's kind of difficult to look at it and be like, okay, so we're gonna keep this guy around? Like, do we want to keep reminding people of the Snyder movies? Because if so, okay, but we need to come up with a plan for this. Like, is Gal Gadot just gonna stay as Wonder Woman forever? Or are we going to recast? And I'm not saying recast Gal Gadot. She's fantastic in that role. I'm not saying recast Jason Momoa. He's fantastic in that role. I'm saying that they have a really, really strange situation at DC Films. And this new person has the unenviable task of having to come in and either make cuts or step away from the Justice League as it stands entirely, or like there is no good solution, and that's why it's so hard to find someone to take this up, I think. And then there's always the thing where it's like, how much is the studio going to interfere? Because the Flash movie was supposed to come out in like 3 weeks. Or 2 weeks. I think we're 3 weeks out from Black Panther. 2 weeks should have been the Flash movie. Originally. That was the release date. And that was the release date up until earlier this year. Until it got bumped to July of next year. And it's like, we're saying, oh, we're confident in this movie, we're confident in this movie. It's like, are you confident in the movie? Or are you confident in the movie because of No Way Home and being like, oh, we got 2 Batman in this movie, so people are going to come and see it. If that's the issue, if that's what you're confident in, then it's not, it's not a good situation to be in. And then what? Where do you go from there? What you need is to have, like, at this point, you need to just kind of cut your losses, I think, and just start fresh. And whoever's coming in to do this has to be like, look, this works, this works, this works. Nothing before us in continuity. All of this is brand new. We're starting fresh. And let them have that free reign to cut up what doesn't work. And I don't think that... And the fact that this role hasn't been filled yet, tells me they're not doing that. That's not the approach that Warner Bros. Is taking. They're more like, well, here are the confines that you as a studio head have to work within. And it's like, if I'm the studio head, I'm like, all right, well, fuck off. Like, I'm not doing that. But it is a ridiculous situation to be in. And a ridiculous situation to put someone in if you're trying to get them to stay on for a job. I just don't understand it. I do not understand what the thought process behind any of this is. But yeah, I feel like a lot of these things they were hoping would happen. Like, they're trying to mask the worst story in better ones. And the better stories that they're using are not good. Or not guaranteed. Because I think that this thing, like, I think the Flash story was genuinely designed, like, to try and optimize the SEO away from Ezra Miller's arraignment. Like, and that's what my problem with this whole situation is. If that's the case, and I'm speculating, if that's the case, it is showing that Warner Bros. Is willing to put up with this behavior because it'll make them money. And I thought that we, as consumers of entertainment, had moved past that. And apparently it's not the case. If he had shown the smallest amount of remorse, like, it would have made this whole thing go down a lot smoother. If he had done anything to indicate that he was changing his ways, it would have done a lot to change my mind, but there's been no indication of that whatsoever. I don't know. I just feel like there's nothing that has happened with Warner Brothers in the last week leading into their major movie release, their last major movie release of the year, that has indicated that they're on the right track going forward with DC films. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today, and we will be back with more news as it happens. I may do a story about the assumed casting of Sacha Baron Cohen as what's his name, as Mephisto in Ironheart. I did put a story up about that. Again, if you go to multipleworldproductions.com, click the news link, the story is there about Mephisto. So until then, have a great rest of your week.